Holy wow. Oh my God. The New York Rangers are going to the Eastern Conference Final in the most dramatic fashion almost imaginable. And what a performance by Chris Kreider. We are live. Hit the intro.
You're Locked on the New York Rangers, your daily podcast on the New York Rangers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back, Blue Shirts fans, to episode number 1080, a special live edition of Locked on New York Rangers. And what an absolutely unreal performance for the New York Rangers in this game, down 3-1 going into the third period. They rally, the natural hat trick by Chris Kreider. Do have to take a minute, though, to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked on New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off of your first purchase. And we are, of course, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So you'll forgive me if I've been more coherent and more organized than I am in tonight's episode of Locked On New York Rangers. Once again, a very special live episode to celebrate this series-clinching win. Once again, the Rangers coming from behind in dramatic fashion, really up against it, win the first three games, lose the next two, and in deep in this game, down by 2 goals in the third period, found a way to come back and get the job done. And it doesn't happen without the man of the hour, the elder statesman of the Rangers, the guy that certain Ranger fans wanted to see be the captain of this team. And we've debated that in the past. And there have been a couple comments recently that, people have kind of brought that back up. Regardless, though, Chris Kreider coming through in a major way, just a career-defining performance for, once again, the longest tenured New York Ranger. And, we've been over this on this podcast really throughout the existence of the entire podcast. And we're on episode, what I just say, like 1080 now, whatever it is. There are times where Ranger fans get on Chris Kreider. There's Ranger fans that really don't like Chris Kreider. That part I'll never figure out. You can critique his game and not make it so personal and not be so angry at him and at least appreciate the things that he does do well for this team rather than bash him for whatever things he might not do that great. But again, just a heroic performance. That's not an exaggeration. The Rangers were in some big trouble here in this series and certainly in this game. It was looking like the Canes. You never give up. You never give up on this Ranger team. You never know what can happen in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But bottom line, you're down by 2 goals with about 17 or 16 minutes to go, whatever it was. And Chris Kreider basically just said, jump on my back, boys. I got us. And he comes up with the natural hat trick. Now, it wasn't all Chris Kreider, but obviously he very rightfully will get the headlines after a performance like this. And another debate that comes up with Chris Kreider every so often, we talk about in this podcast every once in a while. And for sure, people debate it on social media. You guys have probably debated it with your friends in the past. It's the question of whether Chris Kreider, his jersey will go up into the Garden Rafters and or whether it should go up into the Garden Rafters. And there's some debate there for sure. I do think it'll happen. I've been saying that I think it eventually will happen for Chris Kreider. I don't think it's one of those things where when Henrik Lundqvist retired, it felt like, a year later, whatever it was, his jersey's going up. I don't think it'll happen that quickly for Kreider. I certainly think it'll happen though. But I will say this performance right here, this goes a long, long way to bolstering his resume, bolstering his claim to have his jersey into the Garden Rafters. And on top of that, the other thing I'll say, and I've said this all along, as it pertains to the debate of whether or not it should happen, if Chris Kreider wins a Stanley Cup as a member of the New York Rangers, it's automatic. The debate's over, signed, sealed, and delivered. Chris Kreider's jersey goes into the Garden Rafters. And this performance here, man, this is, if the Rangers win the Stanley Cup, the highlight video that, are DVDs still a thing? If they make a highlight DVD of the Rangers winning the Stanley Cup, this performance is going to be front and center on that DVD. They're going to make a career highlights package of Chris Kreider, maybe on that for that night where his jersey does go into the Garden Rafters, whenever that does happen, that is going to be front and center. Again, just a heroic performance by Kreider. Cannot say enough about the job he did here. And you can basically just take a look at what he did here in this game and just know that Chris Kreider is a very important member of this team, because there's certain Ranger fans that would have you believe otherwise. But man, this guy comes through in some big spots at times. And I don't think it's hyperbole to say this. when Chris Kreider is at his best, and that's not all the time. We know that. We know he can be hot and cold. We know he can be up and down. I do think in recent seasons, he's done a better job of maybe not eliminating the dry spells, but, not having them happen as often. And when they do happen, maybe he doesn't stay in a funk for as long as he did early in his career. But the bottom line is when he's at his best, his absolute best, Chris Kreider can carry a team offensively. Chris Kreider can carry a team in a big-time playoff game like the one we just saw. And Chris Kreider, when he's at his absolute best, which, again, is not 100% of the time, but when that does happen, he is one of the absolute best players in the NHL. I don't think it's hyperbole to say this. Any given hot streak that Kreider has, he can carry a team offensively, like I just said, and we saw him do that in this game. And it's not like he was playing poorly in the playoffs before this. He's had a strong playoff run. Games 4 and 5, he didn't really do much. Neither did the Ranger team. You got to give some credit to the Canes. They didn't die. They didn't give up. They battled back. They won the games. They made it a series. And the Rangers star players had a tough time really getting anything going in the 2 games before this one. But the Rangers found their game. Took them a while. I shouldn't even say that, though, because they, in the first period, I thought they had a good first period. Despite not having a lot of shots on goal, it felt like they had some good crisp passing. They were playing with some urgency. They had their legs. Just didn't have the shots on goal. Spent a ton of time in the offensive possession, but the Rangers eventually, really found their A game in the third period, and obviously Chris Kreider was the guy leading the way for this team. So I do want to go ahead and highlight his 3 goals here. Once again, the Natty Hattie in the third period. For starters, this is the one that made it 3-2, cut the Canes lead down to 3-2, happened with 13-17 to go in the game. So yeah, it happened with even less time remaining than I realized for one reason or another. And I mean, look, we're all going crazy right now and trying to remember everything that happened and all that. But for one reason or another, I thought it happened with like 16 or 17 minutes left. No, there was down to 13-17 to go. And you've got Mika Zibanejad trying to do what Alexis Lafreniere did in Game 4 against Freddie Anderson. And actually from the exact same spot on the ice, kind of in the corner there on the right side of the screen, he tries to bank it off of Freddie Anderson and into the net. He wasn't quite able to do that, but it did hit Anderson, and it falls to the crease, and Kreider's there. He crashes the net, got there in a hurry before Anderson could find it or freeze it, and did what he had to do to jam it into the net there. Dirty goal for Chris Kreider. You love to see that, 3-2. The second goal, you've got to shift. It happens on the power play, but we got to set the stage here first. You've got Panarin double shifting with Mika and Kreider, which I like. You need offense. You need your best guys out there. I thought Roslovic was okay in this game. He actually had a hand in the third goal by Kreider. But yeah, you want Panarin on the ice there. It's about 9 minutes to go, and you've got Mika being cross-checked from behind by Stahl into the boards. They call it a cross-check. I might have said boarding here, but regardless, Rangers go to the power play. And the Rangers get some really good puck movement. And this is after the Canes cleared, by the way. A rare face-off loss by Vincent Trocheck. Canes clear the puck. Rangers get it back in. Some really good crisp passing, good puck movement, guys moving around, looking to make things happen. You had a Panarin shot that was deflected by Kreider. Couldn't get that one, that was the one that went in. So you get the good puck movement, and then you've got Panarin taking a shot, kind of like from the high slot area, and Kreider's in front, and there he is with that deflection that he's so good at. One of the best net front presences in all of hockey. And when he tied this game, I wrote into my notes, this is too much, because I mean, at this point, Rangers are back into it. You're feeling good. I will say, though, once this happened, once the Rangers tied this game at 3-3 here, and again, 8:06 to go, so decent amount of time to go in the regulation, I truly believed at that point the Rangers were going to win this game in regulation. It just felt like, I'm not like that big on momentum, but I mean, they were swarming. Every possession it felt like was in the Canes zone. And the same thing that happened to the Rangers where they got back on their heels in Game 5, it felt like the same thing was happening to the Canes here. And there's more pressure on them because they're facing elimination and they're in front of their home crowd. And they were kind of back on their heels. And it just felt like the Rangers were swarming and they were going to get one. The ice was tilted in the Rangers' favor. And of course, that does end up happening. You've got the third goal, the hat trick goal, the Natty Hattie for Chris Kreider. Great offensive zone possession here by every Ranger that was on the ice. Roslovic was in the middle of this. He had a centering pass for Kreider kind of early in this O-zone possession. Kreider couldn't redirect it. Mika missed the net with a shot, but not by much. Rangers are swarming. You've got Roslovic and Lindgren cycling the puck in the corner. Lindgren, who almost scored on a breakaway. That's not a misprint or a misspeak there. Lindgren almost scored on a breakaway early in this game. Basically a half inch away from scoring. That puck almost slid over the line there. But Lindgren, he goes behind the net, passes it in front. Kreider's there on the doorstep, and he buries it, and he's just not going to miss from there. He's locked in, and he's laser focused, and he's where he needs to be. You can't move Kreider out of the crease if he doesn't want to be moved. And a great job by Rozovic, a great job by Lindgren, and of course the finish by Chris Kreider. 3 goals for Chris Kreider in less than 9 minutes. I wrote into my notes at this point, because there's 4:19 to go, and now we've got the lead. I wrote into my notes, my heart is beating out of my chest. I think it still is. I think it still probably is for a lot of you Ranger fans out there. There's probably going to be a lot of us that don't really get a whole lot of sleep tonight, but that's fine. Enjoy this win. These moments are made to be celebrated, and what a relief. I think that's the best word for everything that happened just now, because, yeah, it was getting dicey here as far as, the Rangers potentially giving up the 3-0 series lead and losing and having the Canes move on. But obviously that's not going to happen. And Chris Kreider, the biggest reason why. But, you need this in the playoffs. You need to be able to respond to adversity. Tonight it was Kreider. The next series, there's going to be a situation where maybe the Rangers are up against it again and they need somebody to come through big. Maybe it'll be Kreider again. Maybe he'll continue to just have a postseason for the ages here. Maybe Mika Zibanejad steps up. Maybe it's Panarin. We know Panarin has a lot of game-winning goals so far this season. Maybe you get a role player, somebody you're not even really thinking of that much. Maybe like Jimmy Vesey scores a big goal, or Will Cooley, whoever it might be. But that's why the Stanley Cup playoffs are so great. I mean, there's so many reasons. We could do a whole episode on that. But this sport, more than any other, you need everybody pulling in the same direction. You can't really hide players on your bench. Now, there might be certain situations like, when Matt Rempe plays, they don't want him on the ice in the third period of a close game, and that's understandable. But for the most part, you need everybody contributing. And even guys that are healthy scratches on certain nights and then get into the lineup, you need them to contribute. I thought Brodzinski, he did okay in this game. Nothing that really stood out, but a couple of nice plays, like little subtle plays here and there. So you need everybody pulling in the same direction if you're going to win a Stanley Cup. And I think that's more true in hockey. If you're going to be the last team standing in hockey, everybody needs to contribute. Another awesome Kreider stat here. He is now one of only 3 Rangers to have ever scored 3 goals in the same period of a Stanley Cup playoff game. And this stat was kind of circulating on Twitter, so some of you have probably already seen it. The other 2, Mark Messier and Wayne Gretzky. Chris Kreider is now in some pretty darn good company there. Messier, obviously, we know that was Game 6 against the Devils. Gretzky, I'm not sure which game it would have had to have been in 97, though, because that's the only season that he was on the Rangers and they made the playoffs. So good piece of trivia there. If anybody knows, leave it in the comment section. I'm going to get to some of your comments at the end of today's episode here, this special live episode. But yeah, already a huge performance by Kreider. It becomes the stuff of legend if the Rangers win the Stanley Cup. And none of us will ever forget what he did in this game to help the Rangers come away with the win, clinch the series, and awesome. One more thing I'll say about Kreider here. There were some people that were a little upset with his comments after Game 5 because I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but he said something like, well, we're up 3-2 against the Canes. They're a really good team. It's a good spot to be in. I can understand certain fans wanting to see him maybe call out the Rangers a little bit more, and we were bad tonight. We have to be better than that. And he didn't say any of those things. But, you look at this, maybe he was just trying to stay cool, calm, and collected as best as he could. This is not Chris Kreider's first foray into the Stanley Cup playoffs. He's been there for a long time. He's seen all the ups and downs. He's been in series where the Rangers have the lead and lose a series. He's been in series where they've had to come from behind and win the series, 3-1 on several occasions, 117 career Stanley Cup playoff games for Chris Kreider. So maybe he just fell in a situation like that. It's good to just stay level-headed, not say anything where it looks like he's burying his teammates or anything along those lines. Certainly not give out a sign that he's panicking or the team is panicking. They certainly made it interesting, man, but the Rangers are moving on. And obviously Chris Kreider, the biggest reason why that is indeed the case. Just an amazing performance on the road in Game 6. And I've got the chat open right now. Somebody say something bad about Chris Kreider. I dare everybody at this point. There can't be a single... it'll happen eventually. Chris Kreider will get to the Eastern Conference Final, and, he won't finish a check in Game 1 of his first shift of that game, and people will be on him again. But you know what? Chris Kreider's got immunity at least until Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Final. There will be no Chris Kreider slander between now and that time. So we're going to keep everything rolling in just a second here. I want to talk about how the Rangers have, really handled some adversity this season in the playoffs, some of the things that they've gone through. Also want to get to your comments and some very quick thoughts on playing either the Panthers or the Bruins. We'll see who emerges in that playoff series, and we'll get to all that fun stuff in just a second. All right, definitely want to keep everything rolling here on Locked On New York Rangers. We definitely also, though, want to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is an authorized ticket marketplace of the NBA, which makes getting playoff tickets even faster and even easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to the tip-off with killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets. Save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. Save even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or the event. Save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose the seats. Take the guesswork out of buying NBA tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. All right, let's keep everything rolling here on this very special live edition of Locked On New York Rangers. Have some fun here. I see there's already some comments that have dropped, and like I said, I'm going to get to some of those at the end of the episode. For right now, though, just want to give a big shout out to the everydayers. Thank you guys, as always, for tuning in to the Locked On New York Ranger podcast. If there's anybody new here, we have 5 episodes every week. Yeah, to my knowledge, the only daily New York Ranger podcast in existence. And for the everydayers, you guys are definitely going to want to stick around. In our next episode, very likely going to be doing a crossover. We'll see who prevails between the Panthers and the Bruins. Obviously, the Panthers lead that series 3-2. It's funny. Armando, who does an awesome job hosting Locked On Panthers, him and me were DMing each other on Twitter earlier this season. We were trying to set up a crossover episode heading into one of the regular season matchups. And one of the things I said to him, we couldn't do it. I think I had a conflict of some kind. I don't really remember, but we weren't able to do it. I did send him a message, though, like, hey, don't worry about it, man. We'll get back together when these teams are playing each other in the Eastern Conference Final. And there are no guarantees, but the Panthers, as things stand right now, are 1 win away from that becoming a reality, and that'll be a lot of fun. Love doing crossover episodes with Armando, and he does a heck of a job with his show as well. But we'll see. Could be the Bruins. You never know how this whole thing could shake out. We just get to sit back and watch the other series and watch all the other fan bases lose their mind, at least until the Eastern Conference Finals begin. Then we'll all be losing our minds all over again. One other quick note here before we move on to the Rangers handling some adversity. I already recorded an episode for next week, and I can't really explain what it is without completely giving it away, but that episode is likely going to drop on Tuesday, and I think you guys are going to enjoy it. It's something a little bit different. I know I had a lot of fun putting it together. Hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. But back to the Rangers, the way they handled adversity. You know, I saw there was a comment. It's just one person, so it's not that big of a deal. But it was on Twitter, and somebody was saying something about, oh, the Rangers, they're going to lose this series to the Canes because they haven't faced any adversity all season. Yes, they have. You had an injury to Adam Fox. You had an injury to Igor Shesterkin. You had an injury to Jacob Trouba. You had a bad injury to Blake Wheeler, where, I mean, that kind of really shook up the team. You saw some of the players in the Rangers talking about that injury to Wheeler, and I mean, they were feeling it. You know, he's obviously become a very popular member of that locker room. He actually, while we're talking about Wheeler, he was removed from IR apparently earlier in the day. I believe it was Molly Walker who tweeted that out. So does he become an option? I mean, we'll see. To me, I don't think he cracks this lineup right now if everybody's healthy, but we'll talk about that in a different episode. But all those things, everything with Filip Chytil. I mean, Filip Chytil, this has been just a nightmare season for him, and he's doing the best that he can. And it was awesome to see him back out there for Game 3, and thought he looked pretty good. Now they're saying he has an illness, but it's not related to the concussions. So I don't know, man. The stuff with Filip Chytil, I'm kind of at the point where nothing would really surprise me. There's a lot of different ways that whole thing could shake out. But, I mean, that was a devastating injury, the concussions and everything. And he's a very popular member of that locker room. I think the Ranger Feelers definitely felt that. How about the entire month of January? The Rangers looked like they didn't know what they were doing, had problems all over the ice. Nobody was performing well, including Igor Shesterkin. That's another, example of adversity. He basically fell apart for a chunk of the season there from, I think it was like late December, certainly through January when nobody on this team was playing well. They ended up sitting him down for 3 straight games, and props to Jonathan Quick for stepping in and doing the job when Igor didn't really have it. But he's come through it, and probably some other things too that I'm not even remembering. But every hockey team goes through at least some adversity, maybe some more than others. But I mean, I don't know. I don't think the Rangers have had like an extraordinarily small amount of adversity this year. Do you guys? And now this, I mean, look at the series they just played. They go up 3-0. And then after going a literal month without losing, they lose game 4, they lose game 5. The bottom line is this series was starting to get dicey. It got down to 3-2 in favor of the Rangers, still in the driver's seat, but it got dicey. It's obviously a series at that point. If the Rangers lose this series after being up 3-0, it is a catastrophe. And, you see some Ranger fans, on YouTube, social media, the whole 9 yards, talking about how, well, if they lose this series after being up 3-0, heads have to roll. They have to trade everybody. They have to rebuild this, that, and the other thing. It's a little dramatic, but I will say it would have been bad if they lost this series, because think of how their last 3 playoff runs would have ended. This would have been a 3-0 lead against the Canes that they gave away and lost. The season before this, up 2-0 against the Devils, lost that one. The series before that, or the season before that, rather, up 2-0 against the Lightning, and they lose that. The one against Tampa is a little more forgivable because they were an upstart team that season, and nobody thought they would go that far. You're going up against a team that had won the last 2 Stanley Cups, and the Rangers were very young, very inexperienced in the playoffs, so you can see where that could happen. But yeah, I mean, you lose this series, and it's 3 straight years of messing up a multiple game lead in a series to this team or that team, and in this case, a 3-0. So that would have been tough. But something else that kind of pops into my mind here, as we're talking about all this is, you think about where things stand in the NHL right now as far as the other playoff series are concerned. Every other playoff series is guaranteed to go at least 6 games. And part of the reason for that is because, and I've talked about this in the past, I talked about this after the game 4 loss, the game 5 loss, it becomes very, very difficult to close out a team. And I think the deeper it goes into the playoffs, I mean, by the very nature of this playoff tournament, it's just going to get tougher and tougher because the better teams are beating the teams that aren't quite as good. And every team is that much closer to the Stanley Cup final. So as you go from round 1 to round 2 to round 3, teams don't want to let go of the dream. They're right there. They got a chance to win the Stanley Cup. And when they have 3 losses and they're facing elimination, they are going to leave every ounce of their blood, sweat, and tears on that ice. We saw that from the Canes in this series. We're seeing it around the NHL right now. You look at the Dallas Stars. They had won 3 straight games, including the last 2 in Colorado. They had a lead in game 5 on their home ice. They couldn't close it out. The Avalanche had an amazing third period and extended that series. Same deal with the Panthers. I want to say, yeah, that was the exact same thing, actually. The Panthers lost game 1, won 3 in a row, including 2 in Boston, could not close out the series on their home ice. And right now, there's actually a game going on right now as I'm recording this live. It's the Oilers and the Canucks. So let's go ahead and check the score of that one. So that is game 5. It's 2-2 between the Oilers and Canucks midway through the second period. And of course, that game can't end tonight. Nobody can close it out tonight, but somebody's going to go up 3-2. And I'll be curious to find out, can that team close it out in game 6? Can any of the other teams close out in game 6? So for everybody that was bashing the Rangers about how they played, and look, game 5 was bad, didn't like their game at all, even before the disaster of a third period that they had. But you know what? You're up against an excellent team. I mean, we knew going into this series, this is no joke. This is going to be a heavyweight matchup. One of the things that I said during our crossover with Locked On Canes is that I would be stunned if this series went less than 6 games. Now, I didn't really think it was going to go the way that it did in terms of the Rangers getting up 3-0, losing a couple, and then it going to 6. I thought it would kind of be back and forth the whole way through. But look, the Rangers answered the bell, and for the second straight playoff round, the Rangers are the first team to advance. They swept the Capitals in the first round. That's the only sweep of the playoffs so far, by the way. And now they beat the Canes in 6 games. Now, some of these other series could end in 6 games. That's possible. But facts are facts. Rangers are the first team to move on, and they've got some time. My understanding is, I believe the Eastern Conference Final starts on this Tuesday, and what's today? Thursday. So they've got some time. They got 5 days between games. They could have had more, obviously, if they closed it out earlier. But I do think that's enough time to recharge your batteries, get ready to go, make sure you're ready to play when the puck drops on game 1. Obviously, we hope that that's the case, and we'll see how it shakes out. But yeah, my understanding again is that the Eastern Conference Final will be this upcoming Tuesday, and then they will play every other night all the way through the 7 games. So there won't be any extra day of rest. I do think, maybe that helped the Rangers a little bit in this game, although they were down up by 2 goals with 13 minutes to go. So who knows? But the bottom line, they found a way to get the job done, and they fought through some serious adversity in this series, in this game, and they knocked out a really, really good Carolina Hurricanes team. So We're going to keep everything rolling in just a second. I want to talk briefly about Panthers or Bruins. And after that, man, I want to hear from you guys. I want to see what everybody's buzzing on in the chat and, how everybody feels about this series. And like I said, I dare anybody to say a bad word about Chris Kreider. We'll get to all that fun stuff in just a second. All right, we just want to take a minute to let everybody know that today's episode of Locked On New York Rangers is brought to you by eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you will always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back, because with eBay Motors, you are burning rubber and not cash. With all the parts you need at all the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home those huge, huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. All right, let's go ahead and keep everything rolling here. We are up to 90 people watching the live stream, so that's pretty cool. Welcome. Thank you guys, for supporting the show, the everydayers. Can't thank you guys enough. If you're new here, like I said, definitely stick around. New episode every day, 5 days a week, usually 20 to 30 minutes, but we might go a little bit overtime in this one because, it's a party right now. We're having fun, and the Rangers are moving on, and just lots of reasons to feel good right now. They got it done. Wasn't easy. We knew it wouldn't be easy. Got a little scary for sure. Canes are a great team. Rangers still found a way, and they're going to the Eastern Conference Finals. But that kind of begs the question, okay, so who's next? Panthers or Bruins? As we mentioned just a second ago, Panthers lead that series 3-2. And I can be superstitious at times, and other times I kind of just want to throw superstitions out the window. But one thing that I kind of find myself doing, I have not given any thought to Rangers versus Bruins or Rangers versus Panthers, because I'm just too focused on what's going on in this series, and whatever is happening in that series is happening, and we'll see who emerges. I haven't really given this a ton of thought. You look at both these teams. The nice thing, first of all, is we know the Rangers have home ice advantage. They have it through the whole dance. We knew that coming in. Even if they make it to the finals, they'll have home ice there too. And that's obviously a nice thing. You never know how these series are going to shake out, but I think, having Game 7 at home in your back pocket, that's usually a good thing, more so than not. As far as, Panthers or Bruins, I mean, to me on paper, the Panthers look like the deeper team. They're a team that just has very few flaws and just, really solid players up and down the ice. I think there'll certainly be a handful. And I mean, Bobrovsky, he's had his ups and downs through his career, but that guy's an unbelievable goalie. I think that would certainly be an enormous challenge for the New York Rangers going up against the Panthers. Panthers made it to the finals last year, and they want to get back. As far as the Bruins go, I mean, they've faced some adversity too. They lost to the Panthers last year in the first round. That awesome 3-1 comeback that the Panthers had knocked the Bruins out. A couple of overtime wins in there too. They're hungry to get back. Obviously, they went 7 games with the Leafs in the first round, had to win Game 7 in overtime, and we'll see how it goes. Another thought that I had, and I was talking to a friend of mine about this earlier today, because he's a Ranger fan too. New York and Boston. I feel like the New York-Boston rivalry is kind of down right now. It's been a while since there's been a really compelling New York-Boston rivalry in sports, unless I'm just forgetting something and just completely spacing right now. But I don't think I am. I feel like the New York-Boston rivalry, it's always there, but it's kind of been dormant lately, right? Well, we've got a chance for Rangers-Bruins in the Eastern Conference Final, and I am not a basketball expert, not in the slightest. I make no claims to be, but we could get Knicks and Celtics in the conference final for the NBA as well. So that would kind of reignite the whole New York and Boston rivalry, and I think that could be a lot of fun. But the bottom line, who do I want to see the Rangers play? I don't care. Bring it on, because the Rangers are a heck of a team, best record in the NHL, awesome playoff win here against the Carolina Hurricanes, and I do think that they're capable of beating anybody. It won't be easy. We know that. We just saw it. We just saw it against the Canes. It's never easy. It's hard to just sweep teams. I know they sweep the Caps, but it's always difficult. It's always a struggle in the Stanley Cup playoffs. And there's something about the conference finals, for me at least. To me, the conference finals, this is when bleep gets real. You are right there, man. You are down to just being one of 4 teams out of 32 that are left standing. You are 8 wins away from lifting that beautiful Stanley Cup over your head. You're so close, and yet you're so far because you know it's going to be an absolute dogfight from this point on. The Eastern Conference Final, whether it's the Panthers or the Bruins, that's not going to be any joke of a series there. That's going to be a battle. And then whoever comes out of the West, if the Rangers can get there, that's going to be another battle as well, obviously. But man, this is when, like I said, it starts to feel very real, and you're within reach, and you've really got a shot at it, man. You know, when you make it this far, you don't want to let that opportunity slip away. And obviously the Rangers got here 2 years ago, inexperienced team going up against the two-time defending Stanley Cup champion Lightning. It didn't work out, but this Ranger team means business. They're ready to go, and just cannot wait to see the Eastern Conference Final get underway. Wanted to mention one more thing real quick here, and then we'll get to the comments from everybody, and we'll have some fun with that before we call it a night here. But the Rangers, they were obviously, all eyes were on them, but the Hartford Wolfpack were in action tonight in the playoffs as well. Didn't go so well for the Pack. They lose 6-1 to the Hershey Bears on the road. And I think I saw something before this game. And again, a million things happened before, during, and after this game. So correct me if I'm wrong here. But I think I saw that Dylan Garand was actually called up. He's the goalie for the Wolfpack, former 4th-round pick by the Rangers. He was called up by the Rangers before this game. So that meant that he wasn't available for the Wolfpack. And you see the result. They lose 6-1 to the Bears. And Dylan Garand has been very, very good for them in the playoffs. My question there, was that really necessary? I mean, I suppose the thinking is, you know, Dylan Garand is something of a prospect for the Rangers. They do like him. He might be the backup goalie a few years down the road. We'll see. And maybe they just want to get him around in this environment, you know, a Stanley Cup playoff environment. He's obviously not going to play because Igor's going to play every game. You get Quick backing him up. Louis Domingue is there. So he's 4th string, and you took him away from the AHL team that could really use him right now. Olaf Lindblom, the goalie that stepped in for Garand tonight, got lit up. He was replaced at the end by Talon Boyko, but obviously game 1 didn't go so well for the Wolfpack. But with all that said, I want to go ahead, like I said, and check out this comment section here. Wow, 58 comments. Let's check this out. And 100 people watching. Very, very cool. Thank you guys for tuning in so much. We'll start at the top here, and then I'm just going to skip around a little bit. We've got I actually noticed this before I hit record. You can actually leave comments before the show goes live. But this comes to us from Dave Hardy. I'm going to come clean. I gave up, took off the jersey, went into the den, just turned on the radio and listened to Sam and Dave call the end of this disaster. What a treat listening to Sam Rosen. Yeah, Sam's the best, man. He that call that he was doing was kind of circulating on social media. I'm not sure who did this, but somebody basically took the feed from TV, you know, the Kreider goal, the go-ahead goal for Chris Kreider, and they put that, and they put Sam Rosen's call over it, and Dave Maloney was there too. They put that audio over that video, and they also had a video on the bottom of the screen of the watch party at Madison Square Garden, because I don't know, maybe people are aware of this, maybe they're not, but the Rangers were selling tickets for pretty cheap, actually. I think you could get in there for like $10. They were selling tickets to go to Madison Square Garden and basically just watch the game on the big screen. A lot of people did that. It looked like it was a full house, and man, it looked like a party. I might have to think about doing that for the Eastern Conference Final. We shall see. If I do that, definitely, you know, we'll do some kind of a meetup. We'll talk, you know, whatever it might be. I think that could be a lot of fun. So yeah, awesome stuff there. Just looked like a party. You know, it's something that I would definitely like to check out. We've got a message from Dinoverse1. You're not alone. I think this person is responding to Dave. You're not alone. Still had it on, but took my eyes off it after the second until I heard Kreider score his first one. We were flat and didn't look good at all. You know, I didn't think they were really that flat. There were times where they weren't playing great in this game and clearly getting outplayed by the Canes. But you got to remember, man, they're up against a heck of an opponent. You know, the Rangers won the President's Trophy, and that's awesome and good on them for doing that. The Canes finished 3 points behind them, and they were right on their heels the entire season. The Rangers kept winning and winning and winning. So did the Canes. Rangers didn't clinch anything. They didn't. I mean, they clinched playoffs, obviously, but they didn't clinch the President's Trophy or the division or home ice through the playoffs until their final game of the regular season, and that's largely because the Canes were breathing down their neck the whole way. And you know, obviously, the Rangers held on. Oh, this is awesome. We got a comment from Locked On Yankees. I'm going to assume that's Stacy. Big shout out to Stacy. She does an awesome job with Locked On New York Yankees. She just says woo in the comments section. I'm right there with you. Awesome stuff. We got to do some kind of Ranger-Yankee collaboration at some point. I think that could be a lot of fun. We did a crossover with Locked On Knicks a couple of years ago. That was a good time. And I'm a huge Yankee fan, so I think that could be obviously a lot of fun. Beast of Man 77 says, no quit in New York. You're damn right, Beast of Man. No quit in New York is right. I need a sip of water. This is as close as I've ever come to losing my voice during an episode of this because I'm kind of in overdrive right now. I know a lot of you are right there with me. Give me a second here. Good stuff. All right. So where was I here? Yeah, Beast of Man says, these are the type of games that get your number in the MSG rafters. Yeah, absolutely. I think Kreider, that's probably going to happen for him either way. But I do think this certainly bolsters his resume, as I was talking about a little bit earlier. And one way or another, I think you'll see Kreider get his jersey in the rafters. And if they win the Stanley Cup, debate over, it's going in there. Joseph Tresca, this is crazy. What a win. Absolutely. Vincent Flatto says, if you look at it, the Rangers only played one really bad period. They might have been outplayed in a few other periods, but they didn't play bad. The third period of Game 5 was the only bad period. I think that's an excellent point. There were times in this playoff series where, yeah, the Canes had the better of play, and maybe they were spending a lot of time in the Rangers zone. The Canes are an excellent forechecking team. They can really grind and extend offensive zone possessions and just kind of blitz you and throw pucks at the net from just about every angle. But Vincent's right. I mean, you look at, the playoff run that the Rangers have had. Show me another really, really bad period, other than the third period of Game 5. I think that's a great point. Let's see. I want to get some different names. A lot of people left a lot of different comments here. Orlando Stone says Kreider beast mode. Yeah, I'd say so. Woo36 says, my buddy was telling me it's going to Game 7. I told him they're shaking hands tonight. Well, good call. I felt like I had a really weird feeling. I gotta mention this now. I wouldn't have dare mention this on the podcast or tweet this out or anything. When the Raiders lost Game 4, I swear this is true. I'm not doing revisionist history here. I had this really weird feeling that they would lose Game 5, but then respond and win Game 6 on the road, just because that would be the most Ranger thing ever to do. You know what I mean? That's just that's got Rangers written all over it. So that's what ended up happening. And it happened in just ridiculous fashion in this game. Obviously, the 2-goal comeback, getting the job done. Oh, we got another Locked On host. JD from Locked On Sharks, in all caps, says Barclay Goodrow. Yeah, man, Barclay Goodrow's a heck of a player. I mean, I'm sure JD has fond memories of him. Obviously, Goodrow had that Game 7 overtime winner against Vegas all those years ago, and then he goes to Tampa and wins 2 Stanley Cups. Barclay Goodrow is on the New York Rangers to play playoff hockey. It's basically as simple as that. His game, he's just a grinding, hard-nosed player, good defensive forward. His game just translates very, very well to Stanley Cup playoff hockey. And, of course, he sealed the deal here in this game. He had that clear down the ice that went right into the empty net. It's crazy because right before that, there were 20 icings in a row, it felt like, at the end of this game. And there were a couple that only missed the empty net by a couple of feet to the right, a couple of feet to the left, whatever it was. And then Barclay Goodrow was able to bury it with about 45 seconds or so to go, give or take a couple of seconds. But yeah, I mean, Barclay Goodrow is really playing well in this playoff run. That's cool to see. You need some players like that. He's not going to lay up the score sheet every single night, but, just a hard-nosed player. And you don't need every single forward to be a point-per-game player. And Barclay Goodrow is certainly not going to be that, but the guy goes out there and works his tail off every single night. I think one of the leaders on this team for sure. Barclay Goodrow rules, man. Let's just call it like it is. All right. Who else we got here? Mode 85 says, Giannone said in the postgame that this will be Kreider's 4th appearance in the conference final. It will be his 5th. 2012, 2014, 2015, 2022, and 2024. Yeah, that is accurate. Kreider, 5 times in the conference final, only once in the Stanley Cup final, but we hope that he adds to that number and gets his first Stanley Cup. That would be awesome. Let's see who else we got. Like I said, I want to mix it up a little bit. There were people that left multiple comments, which is awesome. Thank you for doing that. But I want to see if we can get as many people onto the show as possible. Izzy FC19 says, just came home from the viewing party at Madison Square Garden, and it was a crazy night to remember. That is awesome. I wish I was there. That would have been a blast, and it honestly kind of blows my mind how cheap the seats are for that. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I saw $10 tickets available for that. There's no way people wouldn't be willing to pay more than that. Especially when you consider, beers in Madison Square Garden are more expensive than a ticket to that. And I know they're not actually in the arena. They're somewhere else, and you're just watching on TV, but that looks like a party. And Dave Hardy agrees here. He says MSG looks lit. Yes, it did. Carson Dial says, think the Canes have 6 UFAs, different team next year. Thank God. Yeah, they do have a lot of free agents, especially when you throw the RFAs in there as well. So, they'll bring some of them back. I mean, when you have that many free agents, it kind of creates cap space on its own, because when you have that many people that are UFAs or RFAs, that's a lot of money coming off the books. And you can, of course, use some of that newfound cap space to hang on to some of your guys, but they're going to lose some guys too. And will they take a step back? I mean, I don't know. Brendan Moore's a good coach. I feel like he's one of those guys that'll get the most out of, whatever he's got there, whatever players are on the team. I still think there's going to be more battles between these two teams, but very curious to see what the Canes look like next year. What else we got here? Like I said, look, okay, we got Charlotte here. What was said in the locker room between periods 2 and 3? That's a great question, and I wish I could remember what Kreider said during his post-game interview, because they actually asked him about that. It was just kind of generic player talk that he said, get more bodies in front of the net and just go to work, basically. Sometimes that's all you need. I mean, did Laviolette say something? Did Trouba stand up and say something? I'm not sure. Those stories might be coming out in the next couple of days. We'll see. We'll see what gets revealed. I can't say for sure, but one of those things where, it's gut check time. And I would be very curious to know, what was said between the two periods there. That's definitely a very good question, and hopefully find out. We may have already found out. I didn't happen to catch the post game. I'm sure they'll be replaying it. I've got it recording anyway, so we'll check it out later once I, end this episode. But I'm having fun here, man. I don't think I do want to end this episode. Rebel Chum says, after that first goal in the third, they looked like a completely different team. Yeah, that got them rolling a little bit for sure. I think at that point, they kind of realized it was in reach, and they got some breaks in this game. We got to call it like it is. The Canes, when they were up 3-1, they had a couple of different posts. One went off the crossbar and I think shot to the moon. Who was it? I think that was Martinook. Yeah, Martinook had a good chance. I think it was him. Just fired a shot. It could not have hit the crossbar any higher, and it just shot up into the air, and I don't know if it ever came down. That was unbelievable. So, but you know what? You got to take advantage of those breaks when they're there. The Rangers did that, and you're right. I mean, once they got that third goal, it felt like they kind of knew this was there for the taking, and they could get the job done, and they were swarming after that. We've got a comment from just Meh. Let's not get all. Well, I'm not going to say that. Let's not get all doomsday next time. Have belief they got the magic. Yeah, look, there's ups and downs, and I mean, look, this'll test your sanity, man. Watching this team in the playoffs, whether you're a Ranger fan or a fan of any team in the NHL, you're going to go through it just like the players do. There's so many ups and downs to this, and there's so many peaks and valleys, and when you get a big win, you're on top of the world. When you have a tough loss, it's a complete gut check or gut punch, I guess I should say. And you can really kind of be down and out when that happens. But the bottom line, they found a way to get it done here. Let's see. Again, trying to mix it up as far as who's doing the comments here. Okay, we got PSY Guy Bry. Will there be a replay of this game? Probably. I'm sure tomorrow morning, I would imagine MSG will be showing the replay of this game. They might even be showing it a little bit later tonight. I record every game, so I'm always covered in that regard. But yeah, I mean, set the record button for that and enjoy that. Hope you got to watch the game there, Bry, because you missed a doozy if you didn't get to see this one. Jay Spector, if Kreider can play possessed every shift, he will be in the discussion with McKinnon and McDavid. No substitute for size and speed. Yeah, like I said, Kreider, when he's at his best, he is one of the best players in this league. And the problem is there is some inconsistency there, and there are times where he just doesn't have that extra gear. But when Chris Kreider is at his best, I've said this many times on here, he's right up there with the best players in the world, and he can legitimately carry a team offensively when that is the case. So, yeah, absolutely. All right, we got a baseball reference, so I got to do this. I'm big, hockey and baseball, it's like 1 and 1A for me. Just absolutely love both sports. By far my two favorite sports. Rangers my favorite team, though, by a mile. Dynaverse1 says that save was as amazing as Andy Chavez's catch in Game 7, 2006 for the Mets, and just as useful since both teams lost. Well, the Mets lost, but the Rangers won. I don't know if I really follow that, but yeah, I mean, yeah, that was an unbelievable play. I was in college. I remember watching that game live, and I'm a Yankee fan, but I was just kind of kicking back and watching some quality baseball at that point. Mode 85 says, we'll say angry. I was angry at Kreider for taking that cross-checking penalty. After that goal, he ascended to a different plane. Yeah, I did want to mention that in the section when we were talking about Kreider. He did have kind of a Kreider moment where he just cross-checked somebody for no reason. That's when the Rangers were on the power play and they gave it away by taking a penalty. Canes get a rush into the Rangers zone. And Kreider, I think it was Jarvis, he was stride for stride with him and then just kind of fell behind, like kind of stopped skating, maybe got caught puck watching a little bit, and then had to cross-check Jarvis. I guess he fell to prevent the scoring opportunity. And then, of course, the Canes get a short power play, and they score on it. So that was a disastrous sequence, and that was one of those come on Kreider moments that I think we've all had at times. So it's funny, even in this game where he's a hero and it could be a career-defining performance, he still had a come on Kreider moment. Come on Kreider, let's do better than that. But whatever, it's all good. It's all good because the Rangers won. Let's see what else we got here. Nick Aronica. Hope I'm saying that right. Nick says, "No way I sleep tonight." Yeah, it's gonna be a while for me too, man. I'm absolutely just wired right now, and I'm gonna have to go watch the post game and just breathe that in once I'm done here. Gavin Cruson says, "So glad we won. Can we talk about Hedl though? I feel like I'm in the minority, but I don't want him playing at all. Great player and love watching him, but I'm so concerned with his health." Yeah, that's a legitimate concern. It absolutely is. We don't know what the future holds for Filip Hedl. He could be back in the next game. There's a chance he might never play again. And I hate speculating like that, but I think if we're being honest here, we have to acknowledge that that possibility is at least on the table. I hope that's not the case, but more than anything, I hope that Filip Hedl has his health, has all his wits about him, can have a normal life, and he got to the NHL and he lived a dream, and he so badly wants to be out there playing. And it really is weird because they're not making him available to the media, which maybe is so he doesn't have to tip what's going on with the lineup or anything. But they say he's got this illness now, but the illness isn't related to his concussions. So I don't know, like everything with Hedl, and I get they're trying to protect him a little bit, and obviously watch out for him. But yeah, a lot of the Filip Hedl stuff just seems to be shrouded in secrecy. And again, I do understand why they do that. They're watching out for their guy there. But yeah, again, I've said it time and time again, if Filip Hedl plays again this season, next season, whenever, he's got to be cleared by multiple people, in my very humble opinion. He's got to be cleared by multiple people that know a heck of a lot more about concussions than I do. I'm not an expert. I don't know what goes on there. I know they're very serious. I know they're not meant to be taken lightly. But as far as all the the details and is this safe for him to play hockey, that's way out of my league. That's up to the medical professionals and will continue to be going forward. Let's see what else we got here. Dominic Milford. Hey, John, glad you're up and doing this right now. I can tell you're as hyped as all of us are. Yeah. I have truly enjoyed watching Locked On Rangers every step of the way on this incredible run. Cheers, John. Well, cheers to you too, Dominic. And thanks for tuning in, man. There's a lot of places you can go for Ranger news. There's a lot of awesome Ranger podcasts. We've done some collaborations with a couple of them. There's obviously great beat writers that cover this team as well. There's no shortage of places to go to get your Ranger news. So the fact that you and everybody else spend a little bit of time with me, that really does mean a lot. So thank you again. Schnazzy says, I come home from watching the game at my friend's, and my mom told me that she said, Kreider do something, then he scores 3 goals. Yeah, and again, just kind of a classic Kreider performance in this one. That's a really cool story, though. S. Flet says, I was working the first 2 periods, listening, got home to watch the third. Well, you know what? Stay with that routine, because that obviously worked for the Rangers, and yeah. No, I'm glad you got to see the third period, though. That's awesome. David Rotondi says, got some bounces this game. Canes hit the post twice, and Igor made a few point-blank saves, which kept us in it tonight. The Kreids goes wild. Yeah, no, I mean, they definitely got a little bit of puck luck in this one. But look, there's nights you're going to have it. There's nights where it's not going to happen. And when it does go your way a little bit, it's up to you to take advantage. They did have, now this is a phenomenal play, so I can't take away anything from the Canes player that did this, and I'm forgetting who it was. But, Lindgren had that breakaway. He got the puck pass for Freddie Anderson, and you've got a diving Canes player reaching out, lunging with his stick, keeping the puck out of the net. And, it's sort of puck luck, because if that puck had been trickling just a slight little bit faster, it would have gotten over the goal line and been in. But it's also a phenomenal play by that player on the Canes. And again, I forget who did that, but yeah, that's an example, sort of an example of an instance where puck luck was not on the Rangers side. But yeah, Canes hit some posts, and lucky it didn't go in. What can you say? Just the comment 93 says LGR John. Yes, sir. LGR indeed. David says, he's talking about the watch party. My cousin was there. It was $12 for section 104. Yeah, it blows my mind that you can get in there for that cheap. If they figure that out, they're going to charge a lot more for that, because that place looked like it was full. I don't know if it was a sellout, but there were a lot of people there. Mr. Pops Freshenmeyer, one of my favorite YouTube usernames, because that is a very obscure reference to The Simpsons. If you know, you know. Just Google it on YouTube when we're done here, and just enjoy The Simpsons goodness. But Mr. Pops Freshenmeyer says, I thought it was over when Martinook stopped Lindgren's goal. That did have a little bit of an it was Martinook. Yeah, thank you. Martinook. So, yeah, that did have kind of an ominous feel to it. I will certainly admit that. But it's the Rangers, man. You know, they keep going, and they just find a way. They did it all season, and they did it again here. So, good stuff all around. Figure we can call it there. Rob West says, no Kreider slander allowed today. Absolutely right. We're done with that. None of that. Mike Panic says, I mean, no one talked about his season. The Zen Trucker, Eddie's here. Christopher James is my number one most frustrating player of all time. When he plays with determination and urgency, he's a menace, but too often he looks disengaged. Glad the menace showed up tonight. Good nickname for Kreider, the menace. I like that. And yeah, I mean, there's a wide range of Chris Kreider at his best, Chris Kreider at his worst. There's as big of a range there as there is for probably any player on this Ranger team. But like you said, man, I'm just happy we got the menace in this game here tonight. Snelly, hey, let's not get ahead of ourselves, Snelly. Snelly says Stanley Cup champions. I sure hope so, man. It's been a long time coming, and so much work still to be done. We'll see who the Rangers play next, one game at a time, one series at a time. We will see. Snelly also says, I'm a Devils fan rooting for the Rangers after that one. That surprises me a little bit, but I mean, hey, if you want to bandwagon us, we're happy to have you. And the last comment of the night, Mike Panic says, one of his best, most assists in his career. I think he's talking about Kreider's season. But yeah, Kreider getting the job done. Rangers getting the job done. Rangers moving on. Thank you guys so much again for tuning in to this very special live edition of Locked On New York Rangers. We went for almost an hour. We'll see about mixing in a couple other live shows. We'll try to not go quite this long, I guess. I mean, this is a series clincher, so we had to have some fun with it. But yeah, huge thanks to you guys for tuning in, and hopefully everybody can let out a sigh of relief and enjoy this. You know, there's other playoff hockey going right now. What's the other game going right now? So it looks like that game, I got to refresh here. Second intermission, Oilers Canucks 2-2. I mean, hey, that's a nice nightcap right there. Just watch that game. Watch the other fan bases all lose their minds for a couple of days here, and we'll be ready whenever the Eastern Conference Finals start. But that will do it for today, guys. As always, thank you for tuning in to the Locked On New York Ranger podcast, your team every day. If you'd like to get in touch with this podcast, send an email to lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Once again, that is lockedonnyrangers@gmail.com. Definitely give us a follow on Twitter as well, @LO_NY_Rangers. Once again, that's @LO_NY_Rangers. And definitely subscribe to Locked On New York Rangers YouTube channel. Thanks again, guys, and I will see you as always next time.